do have a quorum.
Yeah.
Not until, I have,
Use 4.
counting myself. We have to have 4 beyond me?
No, use 4.
Are you sure?
More than half.
More than that. We're good. Bring up body. Thank you, Kurt. All right, it's 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Item 3 on our agenda, I would just want to remind everyone of our mission, which is to encourage everyone to see and be his or her personal best through successful learning experiences. As we say, become your best. Number 4, I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda and the consent agenda as the order of business, with identification of items to be taken off the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. Motion and second. All in favor, say yes. Yes. Now we will consider approval of the consent agenda as adopted. To approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. To approve the financial report for the period July 1, 2021 through January 31st, 2022. To approve bills for the period of January 1, 2022 through January 31st, 2022 in the amount of $2,086,761.57. Motion and a second. All in favor say yes. Opposed? Moving on. Item number 6, District Leadership Team Strategic Planning. Mr. Mellon.
Yes, the first item of business there is our report on our legislative update. We, as district administrators throughout the county, meet with our legislators on a regular basis, once a month. And we get a chance to share our ideas about upcoming bills and the education world. But then also a lot of times will bounce ideas off of us for bills that are coming through that might pertain to education. Our meeting this month is next week on Monday, but we have had a few interactions with our legislators talking about some of the bills that are coming down the pike. And again, we continue to advocate as a unified group of district administrators in the county that setting the revenue limits for the per pupil expenditure at 2020 levels, which was done in 2020, and leaving them there untouched, which means there's no new money for ongoing education expenses in the state of Wisconsin, and that affecting us for the foreseeable future, at least in this biennium budget, sets up an issue for us because prices increase, personnel, gas, lighting, plowing, although not maybe that much this summer or this winter because they really haven't had that much, but hopefully we save some money on that. But those ongoing expenses are only going to be accounted for in this biennium budget with the ESSER funds from the federal government. So those ongoing expenses increase. The budget is set at a flat 2020 level. When those ESSER dollars disappear, it creates a financial cliff that will either have to be dealt with cuts or with decreases in personnel spending, something along those lines. And so we continue to advocate as an entire state, really, but for sure as our group of administrators in this county, that the per pupil revenue limit should be adjusted. And so Governor Evers had put out a couple ideas to do so, along with some money back to citizens and some road money and some high-speed internet money. And so we're going to advocate that they do something along those lines. We've never had a state budget surplus like we do right now. and for some reason, we're just being held at 2020 levels. So we'll continue to advocate for that. There are also some other bills out there that are coming across the pike that are dealing with different issues about curriculum, and they affect different school districts in different ways. An example would be mandating a full credit of financial literacy. The students in this district and most of the other districts in Sheboygan County get a half a credit. We've had this discussion with our local representatives many times, and every time after our discussion, they seem to agree that yes, that is good, and we're glad you're doing it. We do those days where we have students working on their financial planning for their futures, and just even as special days. But this bill kind of keeps on raising its head, and so if you add another mandatory credit with the amount of time you have in a day, that means something else has to give in a student's schedule. And so we will be advocating that things like that, that maybe aren't thought through all to the end, we'll be recommending that they let you as school boards determine what are the credits and the requirements that need to be done. So that's just another example, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward, working with our legislators. And we're very glad that we do get the chance to meet with them and share our ideas on a regular basis.
Good stuff. Thanks. Item number 7, academic pillar of excellence, sustainability goal, staff professional learning presentation. And Dina, you're going to lead us in this?
I am. So we have 2 teachers here tonight who are going to share their master's projects. In the last December, we had a group of our staff that completed their master's program, and one of the unique things is that when our staff do that, they always relate it to their classrooms, so that research is being done within our walls. So this time we have Rachel Laskowski, who's going to share some information about a homework study research she had done, and Rachel had done the full-fledged thesis. So she has her book that will be housed in UWGB's library, and Pam is going to share how she researched how to really engage our students to be reading independently. We had a wide variety of projects, one that was focused on middle school math and how to engage parents and inform parents and how to support their students, as well as in kindergarten, one on purposeful play and when they have their center time, how to include their English and language arts and mathematics and all of that within their playtime. So lots of different things, but I'm going to let Rachel and Pam share what they accomplished.
I'll just add that part of what we're talking about with our sustainability goal is that, yes, it's efficiency in lighting and heat and all of that, and savings in that regard, and being more green as a site, but it's also sustaining our staff. And if Aaron was here, he was the one that kind of brought that up and made a good point about that. And we've always been a leader in that regard in this district, in allowing our teachers and providing them the opportunity to do things like getting master's degrees and being supported in that way, doing internal studies of their own work. But we also do a lot with our sustainability. I'll talk about it a little bit later in my superintendent's report about with our support staff and our custodial maintenance and those groups. But this is just a great example of people taking advantage of that, and connecting more as teachers with the district and kind of growing together and learning together. So it's really great to see, and I was part of this for a long time. I haven't been for a little bit, but they're wonderful examples.
Rachel, you come right up front. Oh, yeah. Start your on the board.
Okay. All right. So I did a thesis all about homework, like Dan and Dina were saying. I did this last year with my students for about 2 months, and so I'm going to share with you kind of what I was digging into. My focus questions for my whole master's thesis were kind of what is the right amount of homework that we should give students, and is homework even doing what we think it's doing? So a little background on homework, because I found it really interesting, and I don't think a lot of people really know, is that it kind of has swung back and forth ever since organized school has been a thing. Starting in the late 1800s, homework was very positively viewed. It was viewed as memorization being the key to learning new things. And then in the early 1900s, the field of pediatric medicine grew, and doctors were expressing concerns about time that kids were spending not playing, not being outdoors, straining their eyes, that sort of thing. It swung back to a pro-homework sentiment in the 50s because of the Cold War and the space race with the Soviet Union and all that kind of stuff. We thought as a country that they were getting more things done because their kids were smarter. And so that was our way of trying to get our kids to be on that same level. In the 60s, it swung back to anti-homework because of just kind of general pushback against all establishments. In the 80s, it went back again because the report A Nation at Risk came out, comparing us to all the other countries in the world and making it seem like we were behind based on standardized testing. In the 90s, it swung back again to anti-homework because we had a lot more two-parent families working, less time at home to help kids with things that they needed help with. And we're currently kind of in a pro-homework region because there's that big push to improve standardized test scores. A lot of today's parents of our kids are ones that went to school in that Nation at Risk time, so homework is what they know, it's what they expect school is supposed to be like. And then just kind of the tutoring industry and other things are taking advantage of it and booming. So in the research, which I dug into a lot of different research, there's some support for homework and there's some kind of pushback against it. The main 4 reasons that I found supporting homework were that it gives teachers insight into what their students know and can do, and it helps them judge what they're going to do next for instruction. It also helps students with mastering material because it helps them engage in that retrieval practice that's so important for learning. And it just increases overall learning time because they're spending time outside of class working with concepts. It also can teach students life skills of responsibility, time management, how to cope with mistakes, and then it allows parents to see what their students are learning if the students bring their work home. Some things that the research talked about that homework was ineffective are that it lowers engagement. They found that it removes joy from the high achievers and it overwhelms the students who are already struggling. It also appears that there's no link to overall academic performance with increased amount of homework. So giving more homework has not been correlated with higher test scores. It also takes a lot of time. A lot of our students, especially middle and high school, have responsibilities outside of school, jobs, babysitting, sports, things that they're involved in. It can cause stress in students. Student mental health is something that we all kind of think about and want to address, and homework has been described as one of their biggest sources of anxiety in their lives. And then it can be an equity issue as well. Some students have good home environments to work, some don't. Some students have parents available to help, some don't. Some students have special learning needs that can't be helped at home as well. So my study was, I had about 50 students and I broke them into 2 groups. I just called them peanut butter and jelly because I didn't want students to think like there was a high group and a low group. There wasn't. And so I broke a math unit into 4 pieces. At the end of each piece, I gave students a checkup just to see how they mastered the skills in that piece of the unit. And then I gave them a confidence survey as well because I wanted to see how they were feeling about their learning. So the peanut butter group had homework in the first chunk, and the jelly group didn't, and then it flipped in the second chunk, and then it flipped again, and then it flipped again. So the kids had even amounts of homework, but at different times. Unbeknownst to them, I also had a match for them in the opposite group. So I took a peanut butter and a jelly student of similar mathematical abilities that I was going to compare so I could see how homework was affecting their learning. And I used our iReady data to create those kind of pairs. So this is my findings after the checkups. The top bar is just when I have all students lumped together. It seems to show that students who have homework scored on average like a little less than 5% higher on the checkups. I didn't really think this was the best picture, so I zoomed in on different subgroups of students. I again used iReady data. And so I looked at students who were on or above grade level, students who were 1 grade level behind, and then students who were 2 or more grade levels behind. And homework seemed to help students who were on or above grade level the most. I saw almost like a 12-13% increase in their scores compared to their peers who didn't have homework. Students who were 1 or more grade level behind, also there was improvement with their scores. And then students who were 2 or more grade levels behind, I actually saw scores decrease a little bit. So that was that. And then these are the data for their confidence after each checkup. I asked students how they were feeling about how they did. So you can, checkup number 1 is on the left side, checkup 2, 3, 4, and there's a bar for kids who did homework versus kids who didn't. If you compare the yellows, the kids who were confident, really it does not change too much compared on if they had homework or if they didn't. There's a weird, really confident group of kids that had no homework for checkup 3. I don't know what was going on with them that day. That's kind of an outlier, but everybody else is kind of consistent. It didn't really seem to affect if they felt confident or not on their learning. So prior to this study, 64% of my students stated they felt homework was beneficial. After my study, 56% said that same thing. Some of their reasoning was based on the fact that they did just as well on the quiz with having half their usual amount of homework. I found this really interesting, so I decided to extend my study to the next unit. And this time I wanted to give students full choice. So I let them decide if they wanted homework or not for each lesson that we did. Most students chose to not do any. These are 8th graders, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that. But most students chose not to do any, which was interesting because over half of them told me they thought homework was helpful. And then after the quiz, about 2/3 of students felt they did worse than they normally do. So this kind of points to the fact that, well, homework each day might not be as beneficial as we think. Some is better than none at all in terms of mastering skills. So in general, for my findings, homework did appear to have a slight positive impact on those students who were on or above grade level or just slightly below. But those same benefits don't seem to carry over to kids who are 2 or more grade levels behind. There's got to be something else that we're doing to help those kids. And then it doesn't appear to impact confidence as much as other studies have shown. There was not really much of a difference between kids who did homework and kids who didn't. So kind of what I did then was I made recommendations for myself and for other teachers that I have kind of presented this to. But homework does not need to be an everyday occurrence. It can be something that we just do as needed. And teachers should reframe homework as getting good at something instead of a chore that kids have to do. So in my room, actually, we've kind of rebranded it. I don't even use the word homework anymore. We call it extra practice. And it's made a difference, I think, in how kids view what they're working on. Students should know the point of what they're doing. If they don't know why they're doing something, they're not going to buy into it. So I've actually included some I can statements on a lot of my stuff now, and I'll show you an example of that. And then feedback is really important. So as teachers, we need to make sure that we're giving feedback in a timely manner. Things that lose their usefulness, oh my goodness, if they're given feedback too late or if you don't give them feedback at all. So this is an example of kind of what I'm doing now. Every lesson in our Open Up math curriculum has a cool down at the end where it's to check up on how students understood that new learning. On top I added a I can statement, so this is from our algebra unit. And then I also decided to put smiley faces so students could color in their confidence just on how they're feeling that they're doing. The reason is because if a student does really poorly and they're rating themselves as a smile, I want to be able to check in with them and make sure we figure out what's going on with what they're doing. Or if they think they give themselves a frown and they really know it, I can kind of, pep them up, let them know that they're doing a good job. And then this is my homework that I've changed to extra practice. It's the same I can statement on top that's on the cool down. Not every kid gets it now. It's only kids who didn't do so well on the cool down. Then they'll get the extra practice so that they can work on it, check in with me, get a little bit more work on skills that they need. So that was my master's. Thank you.
Really interesting. I do have a
Oh,
question.
yeah.
Did it, going through all of this, did it change, and, maybe it didn't, but did it change how kids view asking for help or coming to you? Was there ever like a change in attitude about math? Like, did it affect the kids any other way besides homework?
I think yes. It's hard to say because this study was done with my kids last year, and
Okay.
then these changes I've made in this school year, so it's hard to compare two different groups of students. But I think it does give them a little bit more peace of mind with math, with knowing like if I can show that I know this stuff, I don't have to do this busy work. So it's more motivating for them to really like show what they know and try in class and things like that.
Really interesting.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm Pam Holsizer. I teach sixth graders language arts, and reading is back. So the topic of my master's project was keeping in line with our district's mission. Our mission is to encourage everyone to see and be his or her personal best through successful learning experiences. Become your best. So does the Literal app foster student reading engagement, thus creating successful learning experiences? And the rationale for my study was students who struggle with comprehension are reluctant to read. And students who are reluctant to read lose interest in learning and become disengaged. So, with students spending more time on their mobile devices, is there a way to transfer that screen time into reading time? According to Kelly Gallagher, who is a world-renowned expert on literacy, increasing the volume of reading helps prepare students to move through a changing world and develop empathy and understanding. He also states giving students much more choice when it comes to reading and writing activities is a main thing to helping students, again, understand others and develop empathy. And here's our answer. It's called the Literal app. This is the home page. And last spring, I took my homeroom and introduced them to the Literal app. The Literal app, you can actually download it to your phone, and you can read anywhere. All right? So I have it on my phone. Students have it on their phone. And I'll get into all the choices that students have with reading, but to be able to read in the car going to soccer practice, or to have students read while they're watching their brother's basketball game. If students can read 10 minutes or 15 minutes at a time, that's a win. You know, they don't have to sit down and read for long periods. So the Literal app does allow for that. This is what it looks like. The text is set up in the text that you would see on your phone. It's called text chunking. Students on this page, they can read the book that they select, and in the lower left-hand corner, they can adjust the speed at which their text moves. So again, this app, we can differentiate how fast the text moves and then align it with the student's choice. So students can choose how fast they want the text to move on their own. And I'll show you how that works in just a moment. The educational benefits of this Literal app is the text message format, text chunking. It makes reading more accessible. In the boxes here, I have some student quotes of what they think about the Literal app. Sometimes when I read from a book, I skip lines, and this is much easier to follow along. A regular book has too many words on the page, and it hurts my eyes. This is much easier. And I really liked the text format that it is set up with because it makes it look like all of the characters are texting each other. So again, we're in the world of the student. We're where they are at. So again, text chunking keeps students focused on what they are reading. So I did survey those 35 students that I initially started the use of the Literal app with, and again, some other thoughts. I like the way that it reads. It is super easy to read and understand. I really do like the literal app. And I like how it's separated in a text message form so that it's easier to read, and how you can change the words per minute up to 1,000 words per minute. Of course, sixth graders, on average, it's probably about 170 words per minute, but they can play around with that. Another student mentioned how they like the graphic novels. And this is a new feature that's come up since I first started using this. So let's take a look. I'm going to step aside here and grab the app so you can see it live. So this is the home page. Kids can scroll down and choose from any featured titles. There's story shares, so educators can submit books that they write. Students can read these. There's international tales. And of course, graphic novels. Native American studies. And again, some of these, there's some short stories here that I can integrate with social studies and our Native American unit, so it's kind of nice to go back and forth. This is what they recommend, civil rights, and so forth. So students have a wide range of books that they can choose from. As a teacher, I've got all my classes set up here. This is an activity feed. So on the right-hand side, you see the leaderboards. There's some sort of reward for students reading. They acquire coins. So again, a little competition between students. Students also can see the feed, so they can see what their friends are reading and what I'm reading, which is kind of nice. It builds that interaction about text. So the more we can get students to talk about reading, the more excited they become. For myself, I can see what Lexile the student is reading at, words per minute, read time. This is a dashboard of all the students in this particular class. It gives me the words per minute and the last time they were active in the literal app. The nice thing about this is they can write comments on what they're reading. They're doing a book club right now on Martin Luther King, and this gives me feedback on what, how they're doing with that book. They can choose here at the Explorer, they can choose by title of book, author, what grade level they want, that type of thing here. And this is a book that I chose for our book club because we're doing a biography unit. Martin Luther King Jr., Warrior for Peace. The fun thing about Literal app is students become very engaged because they can edit the pictures of the characters here. So I've done a book chat, book club last year, and they changed the character photos before they read it. And then after they were done with the book, they had to come back and now analyze, was the picture that you chose true to the character in the end of the story or not, and talk about how the character changed throughout the book. So again, student engagement, they can edit. Let's just take that one, please. So I can change A's to, I don't know, maybe this guy here. Sheriff, I can change that picture to a dolphin, who knows why. But again, so now you can change your characters. As they read, the characters show up for the text lines for that character, and it's the photos that the students have chosen. So here you see the text here. The words will scroll again at the rate of speed that the student has chosen. If I pause that right now, another new feature that they have is there's text to voice. So again, this is going to help those students that have difficulty reading or just prefer to listen to a book while they read it. So that's a new feature that they have. I don't think it's working right now, but another way.
Does that text to voice for, if you click it on, is it for the rest of it, or is it just for certain sections?
It will follow along at the rate that you have, yep. So it'll go through the entire book that way for them. On the right-hand side, this is where students can engage in literature with each other. So all comments, I asked them some questions like what societal influences and cultural influences did Martin Luther King experience. They define examples from the text and talk about it in the comments section. I also just had them write anything that interested them in the book. And then what's so nice about this is that I can respond to them pretty quickly. So again, we're engaged in the literature. So they choose a line, and then I click on the line, and I can find the exact speech bubble that they were referring to. So it's really nice.
Can you show me how you do that? I'm not seeing where you can do that.
Yeah. So in this right-hand side, those are each student responded to a part of the text. Okay, this is one of the speech bubbles. So now I'm going to take the cursor and I'm going to move it to line 227. Let's take E. Johnson, for example, the green letter there. I'm going to click on that line that he's referring to, and just for a moment, you'll see the text bubble light up and move. Oh, so do that. Okay, so it's right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. When students are reading, if they don't understand what a word means by reading the context of the words there, they can click on a word and it will define the word for them, which is nice. It also translates into different languages. I could write a note and post it for the kids. Chapters, it'll pace you. You know what pace you're at while you're reading. You can see I still have some more to read on chapter 3. So that is the Literal app.
How long has this app been out?
I think it's been out there for about 3 years. I think it's been about 3 years, yeah.
That's awesome.
And they, like I said, they've made some nice improvements to it as well.
Are you
Oh,
the
can
only
you turn
one
it off?
using it?
At the current time, yes, yes. Thank you. Oops, there we go. All right. This is a great way to connect with parents as well. This was just some feedback from a parent this year. Michael was telling us about this last night and was super excited to read in this format. Well done on finding new ways of engagement. Some kids, again, prefer paper books. You know, we all kind of are comforted in that. But again, this is just one other way to read. The Benefits for educators, it integrates with Google Classroom nicely. I can see the minutes that they read, and it gives insight to me as to what kind of books, genres that they're previewing too. You know, what are they drawn to? Again, it's many culturally diverse texts, and I can integrate it with social studies, as I mentioned. We just are talking about early Greeks, and one student went on the Literal app yesterday, and he goes, "Look at this, Mrs. Holside, they have the Odyssey and the Iliad," and we were just talking about that, so it's pretty cool, the connections we can make. And again, I'm using it for our biography unit as a book club. I feel there's speeches in there as well, and I think we'll use that as a resource for our greatest person speech and biography writing. Students, again, in-text dictionary, accessible text to voice, monitor reading chapter by chapter, and it translates. They have control of their reading and can adapt the text speed to their style of reading or scroll the text manually, and student stamina improves. And that's our goal, is to have kids read more, and the Literal app is mobile, and they can read anywhere. So, and that's all I have.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you both for that. We'll move on now to item 8, Finance, Building, and Grounds Budget Update. Amy,
Yep, just a quick update to let you guys know where we are at in the planning and development of the 22-23 school year budget. Very early stages, we're just beginning to meet with principals, go over staffing needs, talk with principals about their budgets. I give them a bunch of printouts, and within a month and a half, they hand them back, and, you know, we go through them all, and I'm collecting comparable data, wage data for support staff, because this is the year for them for their wage and salary schedule to be updated if need be. We have a meet and confirm meeting with the teachers union to just talk about any pay increase for that and for their group. And then by May, I will have a preliminary budget ready for you guys. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing.
all right. Any questions, Kevin? Then we'll consider gifts and corresponding budget adjustments. Dan?
Yes, we have a number of gifts, and again, thank you to the community for supplying us with those needed and wonderful gifts. We have a donation of $1,000 from the Wisconsin State Golf Association Foundation, and it's for a boys' golf grant. We have a donation of $728 from Art to Remember for Fairview Elementary School. We have a donation of $130.60 from the Boys Basketball Booster Club for a team dinner. We have a donation of $250 from the Honors Band for a luncheon. We have a donation of $856 from Sargento Foods to Parkview Elementary School. And we have a donation of $18,000 from Van Horn Automotive to purchase new equipment, the Hunter tire changer and wheel balancer. So kids are getting some great opportunities in our tech ed department and continue to do so. Those are all of the gifts, and we'll make the corresponding budget adjustments.
We don't need a motion.
Yeah.
We do. We need, so
Yep.
I'll need a motion to accept.
I make a motion that we accept the gifts, and thank you very much.
Second.
First and second, all in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? And again, thank you for those generous donations. From there, we move on to period of public participation and recognize those who are present that wish to address the board regarding items not on the agenda. And we have some people that like to speak with us. Okay. I would like just to note that this is public participation. We'll listen to what you're saying, but it's not designed for us to give you feedback or anything. We'll take what you say under consideration and get back to you if we feel there's more information that is needed. All right, also, out of practice, we normally limit presentations to 5 minutes. So, once you get started, you can, let's see, is microphone, right up here? Yeah, if you can.
Well, I know I'm already a minute and a half over.
No, I,
We'll start now.
So can I borrow their time?
yeah.
Or if I get to 5 minutes, if you don't think about it. So thank you for your service to our school district, our community during these continued challenging times and the opportunity to speak tonight. In May of 2021, I expressed my concerns regarding lack of communication, and tonight I'm here to express that again. For anyone listening here or online, expressing my viewpoint tonight does not place me in any kind of phobic category. I fully understand this is a delicate topic, and I share this from a place of sensitivity, compassion, and respect for all students. On January 24th, the first day of the new semester, I received a text from our son indicating there was a biological female identifying as a male using the locker room during physical education class. How exactly does a parent respond to their child when you have absolutely no idea this is happening? How do you parent when you're pretty much blindsided? My response was that we would talk about it later. Our son didn't have anything additional to share as he had no idea this was happening either. Wanting to hear the administrator's side, I met with Mr. Brandel and Mr. Novak the following day, which was very much appreciated. It was a healthy dialogue, but one that boiled down to there wasn't much they could do due to Title IX. According to Title IX laws, students that identify with a gender other than their biological gender are given a choice to use an alternative location to change or the locker room that they identify with. Whatever the student chooses is what the district has to abide by. Essentially, a student that identifies as a different gender has access to any locker room or bathroom that he or she identifies with. Since I'm not fully educated in Title IX, I reached out to the representatives, congressmen, and senators that I am represented by, requesting clarity on this law, the rights of all students, opportunities to communicate while protecting privacy, and additional resources. I have spoken to Representative Vorpava's office and will continue to be in contact with them, and I'm awaiting responses from others. Mr. Novak and Mr. Brandel assured me that they would not allow a newly gender-identified student to use bathrooms and locker rooms without taking the time to meet with student and parents for an extended period of time, similar to the semester that was taken in this situation. In regards to a FIAD classroom, a gender-identified student is given a separate area to change within the locker room. Let's be clear, the separate area does not equate to privacy for any student, especially in the FIAD boys' locker room. We have an old-fashioned locker room. There are 3 rows of lockers that are divided in half to provide a walkway through the locker room. The walkway runs from the shower area to an exit to get to the class. For the FIAD class, the majority of the students use the first rows of lockers closest to the showers and half of row 2. The separate changing area is half of row 3. Any student can walk through all changing areas depending on which door you enter the locker room or to get to the bathroom. The shower area is completely open with shower heads on the walls and towel hooks outside the shower area. The boys in this FIAD classroom were not informed in any way to let them know that this situation was occurring. It appears that they were supposed to accept this situation because times are different and now this is normal. Mr. Brandel did take responsibility for this lack of communication to the students. However, there still has not been any conversation with the majority of the students in this class, not even a survey to see if they need to be supported in any way. I was informed that a traditional, for lack of better words, traditional student could request a different location to change rather than the classroom locker room. As of today, I do not know if this option has been shared with all students in the class. There are some boys that have now chosen to use the varsity locker room. However, what is unclear is if a gender-identified male student could request to use this locker room as well due to Title IX. In addition, this situation was not communicated to the parents of the students in the FIAD classroom due to protecting the privacy and rights of the individual. I get that. Honestly, I would never expect a name to be released. However, communication on this situation would have been appreciated. It makes it really challenging to parent when you're not informed. Have we eliminated the rights of the traditional student and parents? Board Policy 5780, Student Parent Rights, indicates parents have the right to know about their student's educational experience. How does this situation not fall into the student's educational experience? The majority of students in this school district are still kids. They're not college students, they're not adults, they're kids. They are in the most vulnerable human state in a locker room without privacy, and we're not going to communicate. I was told that all of you were well aware of the situation. If you were a parent, would this lack of communication be acceptable to you? Finally, the male bathroom situation in your classrooms is concerning, and it isn't about vaping. Traditional boys are avoiding certain bathrooms in the classroom and are seeking of all things privacy in other areas of the school that they are not close to. I'll refrain from sharing their valid reasons in this public format.
It's time.
She can have my 5 minutes.
I just have a few more points. You might be thinking that the traditional student should communicate their concerns to a teacher or administrator. You're right, they should, except for what's been communicated non-verbally. There's a high percentage of doors in the high school that have stickers on it showing a safety zone for the LGBTQ community. No safety zone stickers for a biological male or female. We certainly want the LGBTQ community to feel safe. We want all students to feel safe in a fully inclusive environment. Are we truly communicating a fully inclusive environment? This situation is setting precedent for other situations that will come up in this district. Last week, there was a 4K meeting at Fairview. What's it going to look like in 10 to 14 years for these students? Which is one of the main reasons I'm sharing this with you tonight. When we are talking about one of the most vulnerable states of a human, being naked in some form, communicating with parents and students in situations that involve the privacy of all students is imperative. We can't avoid communicating because we don't want to deal with confrontation. These are hard, uncomfortable conversations that have to happen between staff and students, along with staff and parents, so parents can have the conversation with their child. Communication supports successful learning experiences, and the district's mission can't be fully fulfilled without it. I'm open to and welcome any further conversation about this situation and the topic of communication, because the dialogue should not and does not end tonight. I've included my email on the sign-in sheet for anyone that wants to contact me. Thank you.
Michelle, very good. She talked about the majority of the things I did want to talk about. Some things that I would also like to add is, I don't know the definition, and I know it's based on what students and kids talk about. A little bit of the dress code in the middle school and the so-called furry situation. I have kids in all three schools. I hear on a weekly basis on how kids walk through the hall and other kids meow, hiss, and anything like that at them. What is the school doing as far as discipline actionary? Are we looking at doing, does anything happen? Does it just get pushed off? Does every school know about it? Also with the transgender and multiple sex kids in different bathrooms. I know girls that are afraid to use the bathroom at the middle school because they're not sure what they're gonna happen when they get in there. I know kids that wait until they get home to use the bathroom because they're not sure what's happening in there. I hear that there are multiple bathrooms locked in the high school because of things going on that I understand you can't have a teacher there at all times monitoring the bathrooms. But there's things happening in the bathrooms, so they just lock them, and the kids have to find alternative bathrooms down by the new facility in the C-section and stuff like that. I think that we just need to, I am worried for all the kids. I have young kids, and I have kids that are graduating. The mission statement is to make everybody feel, do their best. Well, a lot of kids feel threatened, and they can't say things that other kids are doing that they have more rights than, I don't want to use the word normal kid, but the traditional kid. So I just think that we need to address it. When something needs to happen, we need to make some kind of disciplinary actions or talk about it. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it? All right. Thank you very much. And as I said, we'll take all of your comments under consideration and talk about it and provide more feedback, so. Okay, first of all, as a point of order, you're out of order, but the point is, we can't make decisions on these things unless it's an agenda item. So we have to put it on the agenda by rule, so then we can make decisions accordingly about these things. But to have an open dialogue, I'm sorry, you're out of order, open dialogue with you, if you had come in and signed up, you could talk to us and provide the information for 5 minutes. If you would like to, if you'd like to contact me and have a conversation,
An open dialogue with you.
please feel free.
What's your name?
Bob Travis,
Okay.
all right?
Movie, Bob.
Thank you. Have a nice night. All right, again, thank you very much. We will now move on to board liaison reports, and item A, community ed, Sally Eisner.
Community Ed, they are going to be having rock climbing for 5-year-olds and up this coming Saturday. There will be swim lessons for kids 6 years old and up, 2 times this Saturday and in April. Community Ed class has a number of things going on. Baking bread is one of them. Friday for the young kids, twice a month, they have a family Friday play group. And then in the new facility, if you want to practice your golf swings, you can go bring your balls and practice hitting balls there. Pickleball, there are going to be more opportunities to play. And family swims happening March 12th and April 9th. And also we have water aerobics and a lot of other classes. Just go on to the website, Community Ed, and check out the classes. That's it.
Thank you, Sally. Foundation report, I was not at the meeting, but I can tell you that the foundation is actively reviewing scholarship applications right now. The funds are there for the mini grants, and so we hope to have more applications for mini grants and other activities that will increase the learning experience for our students. So again, if you've contributed to the foundation, I thank you. Those funds will be money well spent. From there, we'll go to family resource, except Dan Steiner isn't here to report, and I'm not aware of anyone else to report in his stead. So we'll move on to personnel. Board, Dan, go ahead.
Yes, we have a couple of personnel. The first one requires action, and then the second we do not. So first that requires action is that the board will consider the approval of the resignation of Andrew Wittig. He is a special ed teacher at Riverview Middle School.
Okay, we need a motion. In a second.
I make a motion we receive Andrew Whitting's resignation.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say yes. Opposed? All right. Support staff update.
Yes, these do not require action. These are just informational. So Annalise Birch has been hired as a special education aide at Riverview Middle School. Alyssa Wilson has been hired as a special education aide at Riverview Middle School. Craig Winecoats has been hired as a custodian at Fairview Elementary School. And Teresa Holschbach has submitted her retirement as an instructional aide at Fairview Elementary School. Teresa has served the district for 23 years, so thank you, Teresa, for your long service.
Yes. All right, and then travel.
Yes, this is the annual trip for the accelerated physics class. You have to consider out-of-state travel from Paul Krasaniak, physics teacher at Plymouth High School, to take the physics students to Great America in Illinois on May 18th, 2022, and that is for the physics experiments that they do. And if you've ever had a chance to do any of those or see any of those, it's a super fun day. You get to measure G-forces and all that. It's pretty cool.
it's a great experience. So we need a motion to accept that request.
I move we accept the request that the physics students travel to Great America.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? I know my kids all have done that and loved it. It's a fantastic day. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Moving on, consent agenda, nothing there. Item 14, President's Report, that's my opportunity to speak. I was going to speak, and I still will, about a moment I had today, in fact. I had a Plymouth grad walk into my office today. Young man, entrepreneur, and I'll tell you what, pretty impressive. He started a business. He's all about sustainability and well-spoken, understands what he does, understands the impact to the world of what he does. He talked about how he's interacting with local business leaders as well to help them consider options on being more sustainable. And he's extremely well-versed in his field. And as he spoke, I couldn't help but think, wow, this is great. This kid, young man, graduated from Plymouth, so pretty impressive. And that dovetails really is what we saw at Committee of the Whole when Joe Brandel and Megan Rickmeyer, thank you, presented about the pathways and how this school district has created pathways for kids that want to explore their careers, what are the classes. And what's really neat about the pathways, it's not about just that academic discipline that they should consider to pursue a career, but it's also about the extracurricular activities. It's also about the internships. It's about all of the resources that this district brings together. So kids can at least start to explore a career path, maybe discover that's not the path for them, and then explore something else. But it's going to produce, and it will produce more leaders like the young man that came in my office today. And all I can say is it's a great pathway to be on as a school district and to get our kids prepared for the 21st century. So great stuff, and just hats off to the administration and the great people we're producing in this district. Dan.
We always have similar.
Shut up.
Yeah, well, part of it comes from some letters we received from some parents with some recent grads too, but just from student and staff accomplishments and just my report, our teachers that presented tonight and the principal and counselor that presented last week, just the fact that I'm so appreciative to be able to work in a district where people are learning and growing and all the time. And people are expanding their degrees, they're expanding their certifications in many different ways. And so just as an example, our support staff getting trained on their own time, outside of their own time, in their work days on things like nonviolent crisis intervention, things like our security systems and how to best and most properly use those systems, our cleaning equipment that we purchased during the early days of COVID and have used and had to adjust, and the HVAC, that understanding our HVAC in a way that turns the air over and makes it work in a sustainable way, it keeps the air cleaner and fresher. And so everybody, it's not just, sometimes we get focused a little bit on, it's the teaching staff and their things, but our entire population, kids, parents, support staff, have really, there's so much to be proud of and thankful for in the district. Yeah, we've got plenty of things to work on and things to get better at all the time, and that's part of our continuous quality improvement that we always focus on, like our board goals about sustainability and increasing academic achievement and all of that. So it's all combined. And so part of that leads into some of the things I wanted to share tonight about staff and student accomplishments and achievements. First from the kids, we've got the boys swim and dive team qualified 6 individuals in 6 events for the WI State Dive and Swim Meet this Friday at February 18th. Congratulations to them. The dance team qualified in the POM division for the state dance competition and finished 6th in their division. Wrestling has 4 individuals competing in the sectional meet this week, Saturday, February 19th. Brooke Shoneman placed 3rd in her weight class at the first ever WIAA state girls wrestling tournament this last, about a week and a half ago now. Yeah, so it was fantastic. Our Momentum Show Choir had the most outstanding female vocalist at this past weekend's competition in De Pere, and that was Priya Joseph. So got all kinds of good stuff going on. Some other positive things coming out of Parkview, for example. Right before the Super Bowl, Jen McCluskey and Stacy Ross did a soup bowl, so soup in quotations, bowl, a donation drive, and students brought in non-perishable items and placed them with the team they thought would win the Super Bowl. They had over 450 items donated for the Super Bowl, and those will all be going out to help other families and students. So congratulations and way to keep in touch with the community. We also, keeping health and all of that at the forefront of things. Congratulations to the Plymouth Area School District on completing Project Adams Heart Safe School designation. So that is a school designation for the entire district. Every school in the district is heart safe. So Fairview, Horizon, Parkview, Plymouth High, and the middle school. And that depends on if we have the properly functioning AEDs, people that know how to use them, support and crisis response teams. And so Children's Hospital actually certifies each of our schools to be heart safe, and that's the ADAM designation. And we will be getting a banner and a plaque, I think, so that people will know if they come in here that they're heart safe. They've got people here to help if they're in the building. And one last thing from, again, a former grad, this came from a parent, it was a letter, and was able to share it with the principals and teachers as well. She wanted to reach out and thank, with a quick note to say thank you and acknowledge the entire staff of the Plymouth School District for a job well done. I'll leave out the names, but in the gist of the letter is, as she and her daughter discussed her first semester, she went to Madison. I asked her what her primary learnings were from her first response, and her first response to me was that PHS had her way better prepared than other students around her. She talked about how she didn't realize it at the time. However, her senior year of high school, she was essentially taking a college freshman schedule, and how that experience made the transition to Madison so much easier for her. She also talked about the fact that she had 45 college credits that transferred and applied to her degree of study, putting her way ahead of her peers and giving her advanced standing before she even started. She acknowledged that none of this would have been possible if she wouldn't have had the opportunities she had at PHS, along with the teachers that were qualified and willing to teach those advanced level courses. So again, we're always working to give kids the opportunities to see and be their personal best, and it's just another example. So very proud of all of that to report.
All right, with that, we'll move to item 16, adjournment. Need a motion?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say yes. Yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.